This is a review of Survivor Season 47, Episode 13, the penultimate episode, Part 1 of the two-part finale titled Bob and Weave. Now, we have a full recap of the episode here. With me, as always, is Richie. Richie, how you feeling?
Feeling good, man. I mean, it feels like I know we say this every year, but dang, like I feel like the season just flew by. Like I felt like we were just going over who we thought was going to win, who's going to be first sent home, and we're at the last episode now. Like this is crazy.
Yeah, no, it's insane. Excited to get into it. We're going to recap the entire episode. We're going to do stock up, stock down, which Survivor stock is up, which is down. We are going to pick a winner as we go into this final episode. We're going to try to rename the episode and do a Survivor press conference. What would we ask the castaways or Jeff right in the moment if this episode ended and we could ask him with any question? We're going to get through it all. And I want to start, I guess, is how did you like this? They're calling it a two-part finale, right? Like, do you like that? I mean, it's 2 hours each, which that usually the
Yeah, I
finale
mean,
night is long. So I
yeah, I
kind of
don't think you
like it.
necessarily, I don't think necessarily you had to call it a two-part finale. I think you could have just had it be the second to last episode and have it been 2 hours still, and it still would have worked.
Yeah.
I think almost calling it the finale part one like made it a. I almost made it feel like there should have been more to it,
Yeah.
but I did
Oh,
like the
yeah.
2 hours. It was good.
No, yeah, and I feel like whenever we go into a finale and there are 5 people left, I always start the finale going like, man, we have a long way to go, and we'll
Hmm.
probably forget about that fifth person who got voted out
Yeah,
because it'll be so early in the episode. So
they
I
definitely
think it's a
skipped through a lot very quick.
yeah, I think it's a great structure, and I mean this one
Hmm.
opens with this singular tracking shot of Jeff at Tribal breaking down kind of the season that's led us to this point. This is kind of the indicator that it's the finale.
Hmm.
It kind of like for a second, dude, I thought he was in front of a live studio audience or like in a studio, which is, but then like my brain was like, wait, that doesn't, we're not ending tonight. But I got that feeling of like, oh my gosh, this definitely feels like the end. He, breaks down what every castaway has done and where they're at to this point. At the final 6, it's just a one shot, one take wonder. Jeff Probst does it again. Pretty cool. But then we get right into the episode, and it's post-tribal from Operation Italy, one of the best Survivor moves of the new era. We're coming off one of the best episodes of the new era, and
Hmm.
maybe all time in Survivor, whatever you want to say. And the fallout is fascinating because we see this happen throughout the whole episode. But I mean, Teeny's been lost the entire season, I guess, too. But
Yeah.
Genevieve, Andy, and Sam do a really good job of bringing Teeny in and convincing Teeny that Andy flipped at the last second, that there wasn't really a plan, and Teeny eats it up, which is
Dude,
just yeah. No, go ahead.
the fact she even like considered it, not even like believed it, just considered it and thought for a moment that that was just luck. You
Yeah,
thought by luck that all that just randomly happened to fall into place. Come on, like,
yeah. Could go
oh
down as one of the more gullible Survivor players of all time, especially because everything that was fed to Teeny, which Sam says it later on in the episode too, like ends up getting out, or she just like takes it as
mhm.
law and as the truth. And during this moment of all 4 of them sitting on the beach, we get a little Rachel doing her best Tony impression. Not quite a spy shack, but she crawls
Yeah,
up to these 3 having a conversation. And the conversation is, all right, well, Rachel's next, right? Rachel is the clear target, and Rachel kind of gears up and goes like, okay, this is crazy. And they do a really good job too in this moment of being like, dude, it's pitch black out. It seems like we can see and everything, but really you might just be able to hear people and hear everyone wrestling around.
hmm,
It's amazing that she was able to hear. And I wonder if those
yeah,
survivors were like, oh, I thought I heard someone or
hmm,
whatnot. It's always crazy to us that like you can get away with that even with cameras and whatnot, but she
yeah,
does. And yeah, at one point Genevieve tells Andy that was 1000% your move, and I would tell anyone about that. I thought that was interesting. And the following morning we get Sue waking up, digging for an idol in a bit of desperation. And this is when Rachel comes to her and reveals like, hey, no need to look. I have the idol. Was this a good move by Rachel? I mean, really didn't have an ally, and Sue lost Caroline, was pretty sad about it.
um, yeah. And I think just because it was Sue, and Sue seems to be a little bit more of a trustworthy person, she hasn't shown it all throughout the season that she would stab somebody in the back necessarily. So I think that was smart by her. I don't know about you, but for a second I thought Sue was about to like pass out and like get evac from the game.
Yeah, it seemed like yeah, she like stood up fast, and it was like
Yeah.
even when she was like crawling around looking for an idol, I felt like bad. I was like, oh no, like this like poor old like old woman, and like Rachel like comes into her to her aid, which was kind of a funny. But I mean, she's 45, dude. She's spry. She's fine. Doesn't need any help from anyone. Um, yeah, it's funny because I mean, even with this move that is going to take its part, like this move that's going to happen in this episode is like something that we don't see a lot in the new era that I definitely want to pause and highlight Rachel for is Rachel and Sue both kept quiet about their idols. Didn't even
Hmm.
tell like alliance members.
Yeah.
And I hope there are future Survivor players that are like taking note of that because new era is I feel like known for oversharing every advantage.
Yeah.
Um and yeah, these two end up being a really great kind of alliance here at the end. And Sue, yeah, is just so loyal to a T that like I don't know, stands strong in her votes and whatnot. But I thought that was interesting. Um, get to the first immunity challenge. It's a water challenge with their buoy. It's pretty cool that they do this at final six, like it's individual. Because before they did a similar challenge where it was a little bit more of a relay.
Yeah.
At the beginning of the challenge, Genevieve says, "Oh, I hate puzzles like this," which of course ends up being ironic because Genevieve ends up winning. Um, and it's crazy how it's just it's always Rachel and Genevieve, and this
Hmm.
episode could be titled Rachel versus Genevieve because it's like, well, I mean, they were 1 and 2, and they know it, and everyone else knows it, and it was like honestly a sick like rivalry to see happen at least
Yeah.
for these last couple episodes.
I
Um,
thought for sure that Sam was going to have a shot at winning this one, and then he tweets out like during the episode that he was very sick and like had been thrown up and other stuff all morning long, so he had like pretty much no shot. He knew going into it.
Interesting, yeah,
Yeah,
interesting.
it's
That's
also
yeah,
shocking to me that like he keeps swimming in like these baggy cargo shorts. Like him and
yeah.
Andy both, and I'm like, wouldn't this just weigh you down so much?
Yeah, old Survivor, they would just went underwear with it. They would have been like, "Screw
Yeah.
it! Like we're going our gross underwear. We're just gonna go." Yeah, that's a
Hmm.
good point because that would get heavy. Those pockets will probably get full, and
And I mean, with
yeah,
all
just
these extra clothes they get, you're telling me they don't have like another pair of shorts or swimsuits or something? I mean, these
yeah,
guys get a lot of clothes in these new era episodes
yeah,
too. So,
yeah. It's a good point. And Genevieve ends up winning. And as she's picking for the reward, yeah, like Sam even mentioned, he says something about his stomach right there, and he's just like, "Hey, like I've already eaten, or
hmm,
like I'm fine. Don't pick me." And honestly,
yeah,
to this point, a great move by Genevieve to bring in Teeny and bring in Sue, two people who
hmm,
were left out of the previous reward, who were upset about it, to either gain jury votes or kind of scheme up what to do next, which was a good play. They get to the sanctuary, and Genevieve reveals she wants Rachel. But Sue again stays firm, doesn't reveal anything about their plan. Knows that now Rachel has an idol.
hmm,
Um, I also wonder like because they they never directly show Sue being like yeah Rachel Rachel, but you feel like in that moment you would want to at least agree. We don't even see that with
yeah.
Sue, which is yeah
And
holding
you think that
firm
would
and
throw up some sort of red flag with Genevieve and Teeny too, but
yeah.
maybe they
And
just
I
don't
mean,
show that part. I don't know.
yeah, and maybe Sue was mad that Genevieve made this big move, or that Andy had made this big
Hmm.
move, and she kind of had an idea that that's who she wanted to take out. And then as they're drinking, Teeny takes another step back in her Survivor game, reveals that Genevieve has this idol that she was going to play during Operation
Yeah,
Italy, which of course we know as the audience, and Genevieve knows is not a real idol. But then
yeah,
Sue catches wind of it. So even like Teeny's mess up helps Genevieve a little bit because
yeah.
it feeds Sue that there's this idol, but Teeny was just that's just a natural slip up for Teeny. And yeah, maybe I think if there was no wine, that probably would have come out as well. I don't know
You
that.
think so?
Yeah, I think that Teeny
I don't
like
know.
because we see later in the episode that Teeny hears something about that idol and then goes and tells other people again too. Like Teeny is a
Man,
sharer
maybe.
and a like can't keep her mouth shut, and it's insane.
Mm,
And yeah, pretty wild. Um, and back at camp, Rachel's also trying to play an interesting game because Rachel knows she doesn't have the idol. She's probably the number one target. She's sitting with Andy and with Sam. And man, Rachel uses some language. I'll say. I mean, she cusses more than you do. That's for sure. And she says, she's like, "Why the f did you give Genevieve the game?" She says that to Sam and Andy. I think she did this
Hmm.
to Andy too to press him. Like she's pretty aggressive in this. Like, guys, it's not me. It is other people, and I'm gonna like show emotion and get angry and tell you that.
Which is, I mean, which is the right play and what you kind of have to do when you're in her position too.
Yeah. Because, I mean, for her, she's probably thinking, I do have a block vote I have to use tonight,
Hmm.
and I will, but I would love to not be able to use this idol. That was, of course, the move.
Yeah.
And it seems like Sam, like, reveals to Rachel right away that, like, look, like, I've known for a while, like, you're the person we want out. And they're very clear with her. Andy's not so much as Sam is. And in this moment, like, Rachel, like, drums up some tears and she talks about that like, oh, we've known each other for weeks but it feels like years. And I'm like, I can't tell if maybe she is hurt that these friends are hurting her or gonna get her out,
Hmm.
or if she's drumming it up to be like, oh man, my game really is over. Because if you act too relaxed that like, oh, I have an idol, I'm gonna be fine, then people might pause and go, okay, wait, maybe we do take out Sue. Oh, which reminds me, dude, you had Sue going home this week. She didn't. I had
Yeah.
Genevieve. Yeah, so
Hmm.
we'll have to talk about that. I don't think you poured one up. Maybe we'll
Well,
have to double up.
I mean, technically, you didn't have her on the first one, so
I mean, we said this episode. We goes home next week.
no,
I had
no, that's not
Genevieve.
what we said. The next eviction.
We'll
Oh,
replay the tape. We'll look when we film the finale episode. You might have double duty. That's all I'm saying.
okay.
Hey, yeah. So Rachel tries to kind of sway Andy to Sam, telling Andy like, you need to make a big move. She says that the jury sees him as a nothing burger, which
Hmm.
I guess she doesn't know that Operation Italy is Andy, but she kind of outs Andy as like he didn't just randomly
Yeah.
flip. Um, and yeah, Andy outs Rachel's plan to block a vote, and that's when Andy shifts to jury management with Rachel. And this is where he
Hmm.
makes his biggest mistake of the game, probably.
Yep.
Up to this point, we're like, man, Andy's killing it. But he sits Rachel down and says, look, you're going home. I got to vote for you. I love you. I respect your game. Yada, yada, yada. He's so confident. And man, what a bad move. Because really, like, it seemed like Rachel was like, no, it's Sam. It's still
Yeah.
Sam. Like, we just got to go Sam. But this turned it to it's going to be Andy.
And I think
Um,
that's kind of been the theme this season is like these players get way too confident and
yeah,
they get too confident, they're going home that episode.
yeah, 100%. And we get to tribal, the first tribal of the episode, and Rachel gets another W in my book because they're talking about Operation Italy, and they're like Sam and Andy and Genevieve are still kind of just playing the game that Andy flipped last minute, and then Teeny reveals like, yeah, it was just like a crazy thing, I guess. And Rachel goes, well, I want to call bullshit. And is like, no, Andy absolutely flipped. And that's what happened. It wasn't a random spur of the moment thing. And
Yeah.
then Jeff goes to Andy, and Andy's like, well, and Jeff's like, no, Rachel was very straight with you right there. And Andy goes, yeah, I flipped. And another like, oh, Andy, that does not look good for you either. Um, Big moment for Rachel. Then Jeff does something interesting where Jeff kind of gives Rachel this like, all right, so Rachel, if it is you, because everyone's saying it's you tonight, what was this experience like? Which usually
Hmm.
that's also the kiss of death, right? Like he'll ask
Yeah.
someone like he did that with Rome. He was like, Rome, what was it like? I mean, was it awesome? And yeah, that's interesting move. And Rachel plays it up too, even though she knows she's playing an idol. A baller move.
Yeah.
Votes come. Rachel then, right as the Jeff goes and tallies the votes, Sam doesn't get to vote, so she plays a block vote on Sam. Really doesn't matter. Unfortunately, it's
Was
not.
this the last night she could use the block a vote?
Block a vote was 6. Idol was 5.
Okay. See, I didn't get that
Um,
part. That makes sense then.
yeah, because you could save that block a vote to 5, but
Hmm.
maybe it's just there are too little votes at that point that's makes it a lot
Yeah.
more powerful. So right before Jeff reads the vote, Rachel comes out with another bar, says, I think the only thing better than attending your own funeral is knowing you will be alive in the morning.
Hmm.
Pretty cool move, and
Yeah.
gets up, um, plays the idol, and yeah, the votes come out and they were put on Rachel. They don't count. And it ends up falling on Andy. Andy goes home.
Hmm.
Um, Pretty insane. You have any words for Andy? How do you feel about Andy as he departs?
I mean,
Um,
he played a great game. Like I would say last three fourths of that game, played a great last three fourths.
yeah,
Killed it or just messed it up at the end. Made one
yeah,
mistake, and I do like that. Rachel at the before he left was like, "You did convince me to whatever she said, vote you out." Or
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. No, that's pretty baller. Andy was great. I think Andy has a chance of coming back. I don't know that it would be for Survivor 50, but I could see Andy coming
yeah.
back. Um, yeah, but definitely a crazy character arc. This one was a tough one to get through. He had to then turn on Sam for this to work, and
Hmm.
he was just feeling too confident about the fact that it's like, oh, it's Rachel, and we're not going to have any issues with that. And it was
Yeah.
to his demise. Um, we get back to camp, and they kind of all talk about how they got their idols. Rachel says that her note was in the French fries, the friedel,
Hmm.
as Charlie said, and Genevieve then says that Genevieve's clue was in her pizza, was right underneath the pizza slice. And Tina eats that up, Sue eats that up. Rachel's like, okay, pretty funny. That's just gonna, keep happening. And then the next morning, they're all kind of sitting around. Rachel seems to be maybe looking for an idol, looking for one last
Hmm.
play. I wonder. I mean, that's maybe a good question for Jeff. Was there anything out there
Yeah.
that they could have got? That feels like it'd be crazy to put it out there one more time with five, but
Hmm.
Russell Hantz would have been out there digging. But doesn't find anything. They go through her bag, which honestly looked really gross. Like he was taking out each thing, and it's just like, oh man, that's all their
Well,
belongings.
that's what I
I
was
don't.
talking about when like they get so many clothes. Like he was just
Yeah,
pulling clothes out of her bag left and right, and they didn't stop
yeah.
coming out.
You think, and he says it like this feels like icky or something like that. Do you feel like you could go through someone's bag? I think I could go through someone's bag.
Oh, for sure.
It
Yeah.
might be physically icky later on, but yeah.
Yeah.
Ugh, it's just like, yeah, people's like they've been wearing this is the only thing they've been wearing, and they've just been. But everyone's stinky, so
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not
And
sure.
then I did like that you get the three of them, Sue, Teeny, and Sam, that are kind of like they kind of feel like, oh, like Rachel and Genevieve just assume they have this game wrapped up, which is I
Yeah,
think they both kind of do. They both talk about how they were each other's enemies, and they know that whoever like survives tonight or whatever is gonna probably win the game.
yeah,
But I
yeah.
mean,
I
you
wrote
can't
that.
do that and have three people back in camp just talking behind your back now.
Yeah, and those two were having an interesting conversation as well. Rachel asked Genevieve if neither
Hmm.
of us get to the end, who wins? And they both say Sam.
Hmm.
And I
Yeah.
don't know if that's because of jury or because of moves. Because he hasn't won immunity. He's more survived, especially, and had pulled out some
Yeah.
great moves. But that's cool to see in the moment who they genuinely believe. Because I don't think either of them were going to vote Sam either way. It was like we're taking each other out next tribal no matter what.
Hmm. Yeah.
Seemed to be the plan, but there was still that respect of like, oh, I wonder who it'll be. Or now if Rachel's like, oh well, if Genevieve goes home, I lose a jury vote or something. If that was, but yeah, it was interesting. Sue, Teeny, and Sam talking about that. Um, we get to the second immunity challenge, where they start in the water and then they crawl through sand and they get to the stacking of these balls, which
Hmm.
looks incredibly frustrating.
Man,
And
that looked
they're
tough.
on the yeah they're on the wobbly plank as well. Everyone knocks over constantly. People get so close
Hmm.
to the end, but man, it comes down to Genevieve and Rachel again. It's just crazy. I don't know.
Crazy,
Did
dude.
did Sam tweet about this one? Did he have any excuses
I
for
didn't
this
see
one? Or
anything. No.
I mean, this one's got to be about touch and about patience.
Yeah.
And right at the end of it, you get a really great moment from Rachel again, taking a deep breath because I don't think Genevieve's had fallen yet, to where it was like
Yeah.
she had a clear path, but it was just like, all right, last one, take
And
your
it kind of sucked. Like
time.
Genevieve's fell, and it's like she wasn't even near it. It was when she was
Yeah,
going back to get the other ball or stack or
yeah.
whatever.
All just goes tumbling down.
Hmm.
But yeah, Rachel wins her third immunity, which is pretty amazing. I mean, to win three, I feel like even winning more than two is
Hmm.
pretty solid. And with one more to go too,
Yeah.
it's still out there. It's still in play to get four, which is fantastic. 3 is great. 4 is fantastic. 5 is, you know, goat level. So
Hmm.
Rachel in a pretty good stratosphere there. They get back to camp, and the scrambling here is all around the fake idol, or the real idol, depending on who you were. Did you buy a lot of this stuff? Do you think this was late game paranoia? Because
Oh, for
like,
sure.
I mean, this is Sam's best move of the last, like,
Oh yeah.
individual move of the last couple episodes to reveal right to Teeny is, hey, let me
Hmm.
tell you what happened. That's a fake idol. It's not real, and
Well,
like, I'm
because
just
he's smart
telling you
enough to
straight up.
know that they know that they're going to be voting between Genevieve and him. Like it's those
Yeah,
two, and if they think she has an idol, why are they going to vote for her? So he has to say it. And I mean,
yeah,
I wonder if, like, in the back of his mind, if he thinks that they might not believe him, because, like, why is he just telling them now?
yeah.
But in his defense, the only time he could tell them was now.
Yeah, it was right then, and he tells
Hmm.
Teeny, and then Teeny goes like right back and tells everyone else. And I mean, I don't blame Rachel for being very much like, wait, this feels like another plan. And even Teeny
Hmm.
feels that too, is because like there have been so many plans and there have been so many he said she saids in this season. It's been a whole bunch of blind sides. I think I would also be like, oh man, what if it's not? But what if it is? Ultimately you got to throw your votes at, if Sue is protected with her idol, the only person that would end up going home is Teeny. If it ricocheted, if all the votes went to Genevieve and a real idol was played, Teeny would be the one going home, and that sucks because you don't have like a goat at the end.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean you can't risk having Genevieve there at the end because I mean
Hmm.
I still think if Genevieve and Rachel are sitting at the end, it's probably still Rachel. Um,
Oh,
at this
see, I don't
point,
know. That's a close matchup.
yeah. I guess it just depends on the jury too, and how everyone feels
Hmm.
about things. Um, because yeah, Genevieve played such a sly social game and whatnot, but Rachel stayed alive too through a lot of moments. Um, so yeah, pretty wild. Genevieve ends up telling the truth that the idol is fake to Teeny, but Teeny still kind of doesn't really believe it. We get to tribal, and yeah, it's a little bit of the same. It's just like, is it true, is it not? Um and Sue is holding pretty firm. Sam is just like, look, I told you what I told you and it's true, and I'm
Hmm.
voting for Genevieve, so I mean that's really all I can do and say. And I thought that was big, and I thought that was impactful. Rachel's still a little weary. I think Rachel's probably just like, dude, I've played such a good game to this point, I can't
Yeah.
make another mistake.
Hmm.
But Teeny ends up voting to Sam. It ends up going 2-3, which is wild.
Yeah.
I saw she tweeted about it too and was just like, I threw a
Yeah.
vote to Sam. It made sense. And I'm like,
I don't believe that at one bit.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I guess Genevieve's voting for Sam. So,
Hmm.
yeah, like let that be the bounce back vote. Uh,
Yeah.
Unless, yeah, it was a big play. If it was a big play, that would have changed the game. But it pretty straightforward. Genevieve, they get the votes out. Genevieve looks at everyone, says, I told you it was fake. And yeah, they read the votes. Genevieve goes home. If I was Genevieve, you got to throw that idol in the fire. I feel like that's always clutch. Or just bring it to Jeff and let him sweat a little bit. Like that would I think that would have been pretty funny. But I think she kind of knew her game was over. Any last
Hmm.
thoughts for Genevieve? Any final thoughts? You want to see her back?
I mean, I think if there was one player from this season to come back, I think I'd want to see her play again for sure.
Whoa, that's big.
Yeah.
That's big. Yeah, I see
I
it
think
too.
she kind of realized what she messed up with socially, and I think she plays a little bit better of a social game, and I think she wins the game.
Yeah, I think she probably would come out a second time, maybe not play with her heart as much because I think
Hmm.
we saw again some cracks here and there, and trying to over socially play. I imagine with your first season of Survivor, like you really do connect with those people more than a returning season, because a returning season,
Hmm.
it's not all new. Not everyone else's first time is that time, and the connections are probably a little different. And I think if
Hmm.
Genevieve plays a second time, I agree. I think that would be a more than likely a powerhouse performance. So Genevieve goes home. Andy goes home in this episode.
Oh, we didn't talk about this, but what did you think about Sue playing her idol?
Yeah, Sue plays her idol, and you get kind of this mini applause, mini like, "Aw!" It didn't feel like a very like, "Aw,
But
good
I just,
job,
I just thought it
Sue."
was, I thought it was so stupid. I thought she should have taken the Marianne approach and saved that idol for Final Tribal, pull it out then. That's a huge
Ooh,
case to make.
Yeah, that's a good
I
point.
mean,
That's a
that
good point.
almost single-handedly won Marianne that season.
Yeah, no, that's a great point because you
Hmm.
can say because you can get to the end and be like, look, no one voted for me, like, but I had this idol and I didn't even need it. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
right. That's a good point. But I think, yeah, I guess also that was her jury moment of being like, look, I did have an
Hmm.
idol, and it was the red paint idol. I like that they said it right away too, that they're like, oh, that was it, the red
Yeah.
paint idol. But it did just feel like a very much like, oh, good job, Sue, to everyone else. But I don't know that it'll make a difference, especially if,
Yeah.
even if, yeah, Rachel doesn't make it, which we will talk about how it plays out. But yeah, that's funny. That's a good point. Let's go to Survivor press conference. You got any questions for Jeff? Questions for the castaways?
My question's for Genevieve, and I would ask her right in this moment, who would you cast your vote to?
Mm,
Because I
as you're
think she
walking
would
away.
cast it for Rachel, but at the same time, they kind of had their whole back and forth thing, and she kind of was with Sam for a little bit. They did Operation Italy together, but then
Yeah.
also he told everyone her idol was fake. So I don't know.
Yeah, at the end there, yeah, she didn't quite seem as mad that Sam did that. I think she
Hmm.
understood, like, this is the only play you
Yeah.
have. Like, no one's voting out
Hmm.
Teeny, no one's voting out Sue. It's either me or you. We pulled Operation Italy last time. I think, yeah, because like Sam, that was really his only just straightforward move is like not even necessarily hide it, which he did, but Teeny outed him, and yeah, that is interesting. Because yeah, they were talking about being Harry Potter and Voldemort. That was pretty. I think Rachel said that. That's good. My question is for Jeff, and I wonder if maybe if the way he asked Rachel, like, what was this experience like for you? Did he ask that because it was like an obvious way? Like, because that kind of helps.
Hmm.
I would imagine if you're at tribal, you're sitting there going, "Oh, cool, they're letting her like say one last thing." I would read it as that, as in
Yeah.
like Jeff knows too, but like I don't know. I always think just about reading Jeff of like, how is
Hmm.
he asking things and who's he asking him to? What does he know and whatnot? And I wonder if in that moment it was just like, oh, well, it's clear that it's Rachel. So let's give Rachel her flowers, her moment. Or if it
Yeah.
was like trying to create that really great moment that it doesn't matter what she's going to say. She has an idol. Um, so I wondered that. Also, I wonder for the immunity challenge this happens sometimes where so in the immunity challenge here where they were stacking the balls
Hmm.
they like started in the water and they went into the sand and then they started stacking the balls but they were probably stacking the balls for like 10-15 minutes. I don't know how long it was, but that whole first part of the challenge, like it wasn't like a race to the puzzle. Like once you
Yeah.
got to
Yeah.
that, like once you got like why not just let it be the puzzle, because I do think they would do that a lot of just like, hey, it's going to be stack these things.
Hmm.
Maybe
It
and
almost
I
was
thought
pointless.
yeah, and maybe it's to gas them out, like
Hmm.
dig. And they were all covered in sand and all that stuff. But I was just like, oh man, if you're gonna make the puzzle this hard and it's gonna take them this long, why not just let this be
Yeah.
the challenge? Um, and yeah, dude, I miss those challenges where they were like had to climb those large towers, and it was like it took them a long time to get to that
Yeah.
thing, and then you get to the puzzle. But it does
Hmm.
seem like now it's like, oh man, the puzzle or that last little thing is what takes you out. I was curious if there's any thought that goes into that. Yeah, that's all I got. Let's go stock up, stock down. This is, I mean, we're going to the final episode, so it's tough. But yeah, I mean, going into the final, who's in the best shape, who's in the worst shape? I would say it's
I
maybe clear.
mean, my stock up is Sam. I think just because
Mm,
I think he has a good path to victory right now if he plays his cards right. I think Rachel's has already been so high. I don't think her stock could go too much higher. So I picked Sam for stock up.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I have to go Rachel here. I think just of course the idol play and kind of fooling everybody was is a pretty baller move. I think it is Rachel's game to win, or Rachel's game to lose. I mean, and yeah, just I just love how direct she is also with her social game. I don't think we saw that a lot
Hmm.
coming in like the earlier parts. Like I think she did kind of lay low a little bit there, but to yeah, I don't know. I thought stock up is went on Rachel. I do think Sam made his best move by just telling Teeny about that idol.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I can't believe that like you would assume someone like Sam would be great at challenges, and it's just we can't assume these dudes are going to be good. I mean, Kyle was one that was great at challenges. But we can't assume someone like
Hmm.
Sam is. And then stock down, I went Teeny. I think I don't know that anyone's played a worse game and gotten to the end. I think if there's a list of that, Teeny's got to be on there because Teeny's going to make the final tribal.
Yeah.
And I mean, you can say at least Sue was in a lot of challenges, and Sue won an
Hmm.
idol, and Sue had good alliances that, like, the blue went down like one by one by one by one,
Yeah.
which stunk for Sue, but Sue made it through, and maybe that's because she's older, and they didn't see her as a challenge threat, but I mean, she kind of did prove she was a challenge threat a lot of times.
Hmm.
Um, so I can't say it's Sue. Um, yeah, so I'm going to stock down Teeny. That's pretty obvious.
Yeah. I actually went with Sue, and I think just because
Hmm.
I took so much into her playing her idol right there for no reason at all, and I put that
Mm,
as a stock down for her. I
yeah,
think she could have
that's
used that to her advantage and gained favor with the jury, saving it, made a good speech, but
yeah,
didn't do it.
that's a really fair point, and yeah, that's a really good point, especially the Marianne thing. That makes sense. If we could rename the episode, what would we rename it? Bob and Weave was in Tree Mail, so it wasn't really anything anyone said.
Hmm.
It was in Tree Mail, decent. I don't know that it fits the
Yeah.
episode as well, but what are you going with renaming?
I went, that's not going to happen. And that's what Sam says. I don't remember if it's like the first part or second part, but when they're just talking about how he's going to be the next one to go, I think it was the second part because they're talking about Rachel's fake idol and he's saying, hey, that's not going to happen. So I
Yeah.
like that one.
Nice. I went. It happened right after the second immunity challenge. Sam says Wonder Woman prevails again. So I think Wonder Woman prevails again. I really just think Rachel had a dominant episode. Like I should like she just needed to win one of those immunities. The first one probably more than the second. But still
Hmm.
to be able to get through, but to I don't know, blindsided everyone like that at 6 is pretty clutch. So Wonder Woman prevails again is what I went with. All right. Well, now we look forward to the finale. For us,
Yeah.
it's tomorrow night. I guess, how do you see it playing out and who wins?
I mean, the one thing
And
that I
also,
think that I'm,
let's talk about that video because I think I watched it probably 10 times. The reaction video that Survivor posted
oh, yeah.
of the jury freaking out. I
Hmm.
watched it on loop and I looked
Yeah.
at every person, and there's good points. Caroline is like shocked.
Yeah.
Sierra's freaking out. Saul is chill. Everyone else is kind of freaking out. What did you make of that? And I guess, yeah, how does it play out?
I mean, so what I envision is what's going to happen. I see Sam winning the final immunity. I
Yeah.
think he lets Sue and Teeny go to the end. I think he tries to beat Rachel on fire. And I mean, from that reaction, I see Sierra freaking out because he beats Rachel on fire.
Because he pulls this out at the very end. This is, yeah, that
Hmm.
really is the only way he can slay the dragon. He can't take her to the end. Yeah.
And that's the thing is, I think he could go to the end with her, and I think it could be close. I still think Rachel should win and would win. The only thing that I think is weird to me is that so many people think she's won the game already. It almost
Yeah.
seems too obvious.
Yeah. And sometimes going into the final, it is obvious. I guess in the final four, like especially when the immunity challenge
Hmm.
happens, that happens sometimes, but not always. And there is still a lot of game to be played. And really, it's the challenge, it's who you take, and then it's
Yeah,
how you present. It does seem clear to me that yeah, on the island, I don't think anyone's taking Sue or Teeny seriously. So it is
for
Sam
sure.
and Rachel. But if Rachel wins, you think she takes Sam, protect him, don't let him win fire, and let Sue and Teeny battle it out for fire? Or do you think that's too
See, I think
risky?
that's
Because
I think that's too risky. Just because he has played a good game, he's made some good moves, very likable on a lot of those people on the jury.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
I think he would get Andy, I think he would get Sierra, I think he'd get Saul, and I
yeah,
think with the way he was like the way he speaks, I think he could get one or two more and win the game. So I don't think
yeah.
she can do that. I think she has to make him be in fire.
Yeah, so you think the ballsy thing that she could do is she wins and she says, "All right, me and you, Sam, fire, let's do this,"
Oh,
and then she
that'd be
beats
awesome too.
Sam, and then you're like, "Damn, like she's a
Yeah.
beast," and one of the
Hmm.
greats. But that also feels risky. But that also is like, dude, if you're on Survivor, like
Yeah.
you wanna leave no doubt, and that would leave no doubt. Because yeah, if
Hmm.
you bring Sam to the end, you just have to hope that you could argue really, really well. that you played a better game than
Which
Sam, and
I think she has played a better game, and I think she could argue that for sure. But it
it's just
is
a
risky.
risky. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. So
Whereas
at
if
this
you're
point,
Sam, you almost kind of feel like you have to do that because that's how you probably feel the only way you for sure win the game is if
yeah,
it's you, Sue, and Teeny.
yeah. All right. So so you see it playing out? Sam wins. Let's pick a winner.
I'm gonna pick Sam.
You're picking Sam. Oh, it's a good pick. It's a good yeah.
Hmm.
It is a good pick, but I would destroy. It will destroy me. Maybe I need to prepare if Rachel loses because I do just think I
Yeah.
don't know. I got nothing but praise for Rachel. There's something about
Hmm.
it. I was watching her and she was killing it and staying in it for so long. Was like an odd man out a lot. But it is also funny that I mean, I think we have 2 yellow, 1 blue, 1 red right now, which it is funny that
Yeah.
Survivor kind of always ends up that way. Like it
Hmm.
is never just like like the same tribe at the end. Maybe with D's season, but
Yeah. I was gonna say
yeah,
yeah. They had 4 versus 1.
yeah, which doesn't happen a ton, but like they were good
Hmm.
at taking out the blue tribe, like one by one by one. Um, but yeah, all right. So you're going Sam. I'm going Rachel. We will
Hmm.
find out on the next episode. We'll be back.
And we'll do a shot on that one as well.
Yeah. Okay. But I'm gonna pull up the
Live.
tape, dude. I
Okay. Pull
think
the
what
tape
we
up.
say every week is who goes home next week. I don't think we
Okay.
say who goes, and then we say, dude, it could be 1 or 2.
See,
I
I
don't
think that
know.
would have made me change my answer, but I'll play the rules.
All right, man. Well, look, we can play. We can roll back the tape. We can do a challenge. Challenge. You get 1 challenge flag a season.
I might file an
Um,
appeal, but
yeah. I did also think it was great that at the end here, shot in the dark was not a factor. I did love that. Like
for
that,
sure.
those were all gone. That ended up being one of the greatest parts of this season. Was that went away. Um,
Hmm.
I thought that was neat. And shout out Kyle for doing that. That's pretty sick. All right. We'll be back for the finale. We'll be, maybe even sitting right where Richie is
Hey.
and talking it all out. And until then, we'll see you next time.